Imagine an earthworm sitting in a tiny cubicle.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, just sweating under those harsh fluorescent lights, completely terrified because it's, falling behind on its Q3 soil aeration KPIs.
That sounds absolutely
Right.
ridiculous.
It is completely ridiculous. But according to the philosophical text we are diving into today, that anxious, stressed out worm is actually the perfect mirror for how humanity has, well, fundamentally misunderstood ambition.
And legacy, too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Legacy and what it actually means to be successful. So welcome to the deep dive.
Glad to be here.
For you, the learner listening right now, someone who is just constantly curious, always chasing those big aha moments, I mean, the sheer volume of information out there can be totally paralyzing.
Oh, it's
It
overwhelming.
really is. The pressure to know everything, to be everything, to contribute on this massive scale just creates this crushing information overload.
You feel like you're never doing enough.
Right. But you want thorough knowledge without that overwhelm. And that is our mission today as we look at excerpts from a really fascinating book titled The Silent Intelligence of Simple Being.
It is such a profound text.
Yes, we are going to fundamentally rethink everything society has taught us about leaving a legacy simply by looking at, well, one of the humblest creatures on Earth,
The earthworm.
the earthworm. Okay, let's unpack this. Because the contrast this text draws between human struggle and nature's quiet efficiency is, it's pretty stark.
It really is. The premise the author establishes right out of the gate is that most people spend their lives frantically trying to be important.
Yeah, constantly striving.
Exactly. We try to be good, we try to serve others, or we just completely exhaust ourselves trying to live up to some external idea of greatness.
Like we have an audience at all times.
Right. But nature, which is arguably the most sustainable and successful system in existence, it operates on a completely different paradigm.
A completely different set of rules.
Right. Yes. It operates on what the text calls a silent intelligence. There is no striving for importance in a forest.
It's just happening.
There is only being. And the primary vehicle the author uses to illustrate this, like you said, is the earthworm.
Which is funny, but it makes so much sense. The earthworm is functionally a farmer's most vital silent ally.
Oh, completely essential.
It spends its entire life just tunneling through the dirt. And by doing that, it loosens the earth, it creates these channels for water to seep deeper into the ground, and it literally digests dead organic matter.
Turning it into fertilizer, basically.
All right, turning it into the rich nourishment that allows the crops to grow. Without the earthworm, the soil compacts, the nutrients lock up, and the harvest fails.
It is the cornerstone of agriculture.
But, and this is the crazy part, it doesn't know it.
That is the crucial distinction the text makes right there. It's all about awareness. The earthworm does not know it is the cornerstone of agriculture.
It's totally clueless.
Completely ignorant of its own immense value. It doesn't, hold strategy meetings about global soil health.
Right, there's no worm PowerPoint presentation.
Exactly. It doesn't look in a puddle like a mirror and view itself as the grand savior of the human food supply. It simply lives out its nature.
It just does what a worm does.
Exactly.
And the text scales this up, right? Beyond just the worm, it looks at these huge planetary forces.
Like the rain and the sun.
Yeah. When the rain falls, it revives entire ecosystems. It swells rivers. It brings green life back from the dust. But the rain doesn't possess a savior complex.
No, it doesn't.
And the sun, it powers all of photosynthesis on Earth. It drives the ocean currents. It provides the energy for literally every single calorie we consume.
Source of all life.
But the sun doesn't wake up, look down at the Earth, and think, I am the source of all life. I really need to shine optimally today so they remember me.
Right. It doesn't care about its legacy.
These forces just exist. But wait, I do struggle with this part a little bit.
Oh, really? How so?
Well, if we go back to my intro, if we put an earthworm in a modern office, sure, it would be stressed out about its KPIs. But doesn't awareness of our impact actually make us better at what we do?
That is the standard way of thinking, yeah.
Right. We are taught that being self-aware and understanding our value in the workplace or, in society is the pinnacle of emotional intelligence.
Sure.
So why is knowing our own value framed as a negative thing in this text?
What's fascinating here is how the text systematically dismantles that exact modern assumption, the idea that self-awareness automatically equals better performance.
Okay, so how does it dismantle it?
It introduces this concept called the burden of knowing.
The burden of knowing.
Yeah. To understand the psychology here, imagine someone actually could tap that earthworm on the shoulder and say, hey, You are absolutely essential to human agriculture.
Like millions of lives depend on how well you tunnel today.
Exactly. The text argues that the very moment the worm becomes aware of its immense importance, ego quietly enters the scene.
Oh, I see. It gets performance anxiety.
Yes. It starts overthinking the tunneling.
It fundamentally changes its relationship to the work.
Completely. The worm would stop simply tunneling and start thinking, am I tunneling fast enough? Am I doing as well as the worm in the next acre over?
Should I be digging in a more strategic, visible pattern so the farmer notices me?
Right. It would begin to measure its output against this imagined ideal. It would worry, and crucially, it would no longer simply live as a worm.
It would start trying to live as a great helper of farmers.
Exactly. And the text states this so explicitly, it says, greatness is heavy.
Wow. Greatness is heavy.
Once the mind sees itself as significant, life immediately becomes complicated. The effortless flow state rhythm that nature relies on is just broken the moment self-importance is introduced.
That phrase, greatness is heavy, that perfectly captures the modern condition.
It really does.
I mean, the sun, the rain, the earthworm, they're completely free from the one thing that tortures humanity, which is this constant grinding self-awareness mixed with endless comparison.
Yes, exactly.
It's like we are always watching ourselves live.
And that mixture of self-awareness and comparison is uniquely human. The text actually argues it is the root of our profound collective exhaustion.
Because our attention is entirely scattered.
Yes. We are constantly monitoring our image, agonizing over our purpose, and, stressing about our legacy.
Kind of great.
We feel this immense pressure to live up to ideals that we didn't even create. The author describes this as carrying invisible debts to people we have never even met.
Invisible debts. That makes so much sense. We see this everywhere in professional and personal development.
Whoa, constantly.
You have entrepreneurs wearing the exact same black turtleneck as Steve Jobs.
Or people rigorously copying the 4.0 a.m. ice bath routine of some billionaire podcaster.
Exactly. People repeat their catchphrases. They fiercely defend the philosophies of ancient Stoics online.
Right.
We take on these personas because we mistakenly believe we are honoring greatness or, unlocking it within ourselves.
But by taking on those personas, the text argues, we are simply adding immense artificial weight to our own lives.
It's just a burden.
We build our identities around external figures, and it creates a very specific, strange kind of anxiety.
The anxiety of constantly asking, am I living up to a standard greater than myself?
Precisely. And instead of focusing on the reality directly in front of us, like the actual code we're writing or the actual conversation we're having with our child.
The simple task at hand.
Right. Instead of that, our mental bandwidth is frantically consumed by trying to fulfill a role.
It's exhausting just thinking about it.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the text maps out the psychological mechanism of how this actually ruins our output.
Okay, lay it out for me.
It lays out this devastating causal chain.
Yeah.
It all begins with divided attention.
Right.
Think of your brain like a computer trying to download a massive file while simultaneously running 10 different heavy, complex applications in the background.
So your bandwidth is totally split.
Split by managing the apps of your ego, your legacy, your social comparisons. And because of that split, the actual download, the task right in front of you, takes forever.
And it keeps crashing.
Exactly.
Because you're constantly toggling between doing the work and managing the perception of the work.
Yes.
You can't give 100% to the task if 50% of your cognitive load is dedicated to worrying about how the task positions you for a promotion.
Exactly. And the causal chain moves to the natural consequence of that split bandwidth, which is weakened effort.
Because you're distracted.
Right. And when effort weakens, the results become incomplete. You do an okay job, but you don't achieve mastery.
And those incomplete results inevitably bring a lingering dissatisfaction.
Because you know, deep down, that you could have done better.
Or you realize the work doesn't even feel authentically yours because you were just imitating someone else.
Right. And without satisfaction, true fulfillment never arrives. The tragic endpoint the text identifies is that without fulfillment, this underlying chronic frustration slowly turns into bitterness.
Bitterness and resentment toward the world.
Yes.
So what does this all mean? The text challenges the reader directly here.
It really asks you to look in the mirror.
It asks us to consider how much of our daily exhaustion, our burnout, and our stress isn't actually coming from the physical or mental exertion of the work itself.
Right. It's not the actual labor.
How much of it is just the intense friction of managing an alter ego?
It's like trying to run a marathon while wearing someone else's shoes.
And constantly looking over your shoulder to see if the crowd thinks you have good running form.
Exactly. It is no wonder society is universally tired.
We are working under the crushing burden of trying to be great.
And millions of people are trapped in that cycle of bitterness without ever realizing the root cause.
They assume they just aren't working hard enough.
Or they haven't found the right life hack, when the reality is their attention is just profoundly fractured by the ego's demands.
So, if trying to serve humanity through imitation and chasing greatness leads to this inevitable bitterness, the text has to offer a way out, right?
Yeah. It does. But the alternative it proposes is quite provocative.
Okay, what is it?
It essentially advocates for radical self-focus.
Radical self-focus. That sounds almost counterintuitive.
It grounds this alternative in the same quiet intelligence of nature we saw with the earthworm. The author uses the metaphor of an apple tree.
Okay.
An apple tree does not grow fruit because it wants to serve humanity. It doesn't have a philanthropic mission statement or a desire to solve global hunger.
Right, it's not trying to be a hero.
It grows fruit simply because that is its biological imperative. It is entirely 100% focused on being a tree.
To do its thing.
Yet, because it fulfills its own nature so completely, birds eat the fruit, animals survive the winter, seeds are spread, and entire forest ecosystems expand.
Oh, it's like the river, right? The river doesn't flow to provide irrigation for human civilization.
Exactly.
It flows because gravity and water dynamics demand it. The villages flourish along its banks as a byproduct.
That's a perfect example. And the text provides human equivalents to demonstrate how this applies to us.
Like what?
Well, when a musician becomes completely joyfully absorbed in mastering their instrument, not trying to secure a record deal, not trying to be famous, just exploring the depth of the music, audiences are inevitably moved to tears.
Right.
Or when a scientist pursues a thread of pure, unadulterated curiosity, not trying to win a Nobel Prize, but just obsessively trying to figure out a puzzle, society ultimately reaps the rewards of that discovery.
Or a craftsman obsessing over perfecting the joint of a chair. The community gets a beautiful, durable piece of furniture that lasts generations.
Exactly. In every single one of those cases, the service to others is a side effect.
It is an unintended, almost accidental byproduct of a human being wholeheartedly pursuing their authentic nature without the burden of ego.
Right.
But here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
If we start telling people to stop caring about serving others, to drop the philanthropic mission statements, and just focus entirely on their own pursuits and their own nature, aren't we just handing humanity a philosophical hall pass for utter selfishness?
That is the immediate pushback, yes.
How does a society operating on radical self-focus not immediately collapse into greed and exploitation?
This raises an important question, and the author actually anticipates this exact critique.
Oh, they do?
Yes. The fear is that without the moral pressure to be good, humans will just become monsters.
Right, that's the fear.
But the text addresses this by looking at the strict boundaries inherent in nature.
What do you mean by boundaries?
Well, the earthworm doesn't exploit the soil endlessly. It only consumes what it can physically digest.
Oh, I see.
A lion does not massacre the entire savanna. It only hunts what it needs to satisfy its immediate hunger.
And a river cannot carry more water than the physical laws of gravity and terrain allow.
Exactly. Nature is inherently self-regulating. True nature has limits.
So the argument is that true selfishness and endless greed are actually unnatural.
Yes. The text argues that the massive human problems we associate with selfishness, like corporate exploitation, the hoarding of immense wealth, insatiable greed, they do not arise from our natural biological desires.
They don't.
No, they arise from distorted desires. And those distortions are born from the exact things we were just talking about: comparison, competition, and artificial expectations.
Right.
A billionaire doesn't hoard $1 billion because their natural biology requires it to survive.
No, obviously not.
They hoard it because they are comparing their net worth to another billionaire's net worth.
They hoard it because they are terrified of losing their social status or because they're trying to build an immortal legacy.
Exactly.
Wow. Viewing greed not as a baseline human instinct, but as a symptom of the ego and the burden of greatness, that completely reframes the issue.
It really does.
You only take more than you need when you are trying to prove something to someone else.
Right.
If you are just living authentically, completely focused on the present moment, your actual needs are quite finite.
When a person is fully absorbed in the present moment and the work itself, The psychological mechanism that drives the need to exploit others simply vanishes.
Because the ego isn't there.
Exactly. The ego isn't present to demand more status, more power, or more wealth. The cognitive bandwidth is fully occupied by the joy and the challenge of the task.
So if this burden of greatness destroys individual fulfillment, what happens when you multiply that by 8 billion people?
It's staggering to think about.
Does the text suggest our entire societal structure is currently built on this
Pretty
anxiety?
much, yeah.
Let's look at how the author scales this up. What does a society actually look like when people stop chasing approval, stop performing goodness, and operate on this earthworm principle?
The author envisions a world completely devoid of performative action.
That sounds peaceful.
It's a society where people engage in their work with undivided attention. Because they aren't distracted by trying to imitate historical figures or worrying about their Wikipedia pages, the quality of their efforts skyrockets.
Right. Artists make more resonant art because they aren't trying to be the next Picasso. They are exploring their own unique vision.
Yes. Civil engineers build safer, more efficient infrastructure because their minds are fully on the tension of the steel and the math.
Not the quarterly earnings report.
Exactly. Teachers teach with genuine passion because they are entirely present with the students in the room.
Not worrying about administrative accolades or climbing the academic ladder.
Exactly.
It's a society of side effects.
Yeah.
Everyone is enriching the soil, but nobody is holding summits on how to enrich the soil.
That's a great way to put it. The contribution emerges organically from the mastery of the work itself.
Oh, interesting.
And this leads to the text's boldest and perhaps most controversial claim.
Oh, what is it?
It suggests that a society operating on this silent intelligence would require far less policing, far fewer laws, and much less external control.
Wait, really? That is a massive sociological claim to make.
It is.
How does the text justify the idea that simply dropping the pursuit of greatness would naturally reduce crime and the need for policing?
It comes down to identifying the root cause of human conflict. The text argues that deeply fulfilled people rarely feel the urge to harm, steal from, or oppress others.
I mean, that makes logical sense.
If you look at the mechanics of societal conflict, when are people most likely to lash out? It is usually when they are operating from a place of intense frustration, envy, and the pain of an unfulfilled life.
Right.
The ego creates a scarcity mindset even in times of abundance. When you feel you must achieve greatness to be worthy, anyone else's success feels like a threat to your own.
It turns society into a zero-sum game.
Precisely.
But if you remove those crushing pressures, the pressure to be universally recognized, the pressure to constantly compare yourself to curated online lives.
The anxiety of failing to pay off those invisible debts.
Right. You remove the primary drivers of malice.
Yes. When people are engaged in meaningful, focused work that aligns with their nature, the psychological void that usually fills up with envy or greed simply doesn't exist.
That fundamentally flips how we view human nature.
It completely flips it.
We are so conditioned by history and sociology to view human conflict, greed, and malice as our baseline default settings.
Yeah, we think we're inherently bad.
We treat civilization as this incredibly thin veneer of police, laws, and social shaming that keeps the inner monsters at bay.
But this philosophy says no.
Conflict is not the baseline. Conflict is a symptom of a society full of people who are suffocating under the burden of greatness.
Yes.
We act out, we hoard resources, and we fight because our attention is scattered and our lives feel meaningless when we constantly measure them against impossible imagined ideals.
It is a complete paradigm shift. And it brings the argument full circle, right back to the earthworm.
Back to the dirt.
Right back to the dirt. The earthworm does not try to be great. It does not wake up with a grand, heavy mission to save the world's agriculture.
It simply lives its life fully, honestly, and with complete attention to the dirt in front of it.
And because it does so, the soil becomes richer. The text is asking the reader to consider that the exact same mechanism applies to human beings.
When we finally stop trying to become important, when we drop the heavy armor of our egos, and instead just focus on living our actual lives deeply and honestly, something surprising happens.
Yes.
Our lives begin to nourish the world around us, quietly, without agonizing effort, without pride, and often without us even knowing it.
The logical sequence the text leaves the reader with is beautiful in its clarity.
How does it lay it out?
It says, when your attention is complete, meaning it is no longer divided by ego, legacy, or comparison, your action in the present moment becomes perfectly clear.
Okay.
When your action is clear and undivided, your life naturally becomes meaningful. And when your life becomes meaningful, the world quietly benefits from your presence.
That's like the earthworm digesting the dead matter and leaving behind pure nourishment.
Exactly.
This has been such a counterintuitive journey through these excerpts. I mean, we started by looking at the immense pressure you feel to learn more, do more, and be recognized for more, and we found the antidote in the dirt.
It's funny how that works.
The core permission slip this text offers the reader is the idea that you can simply stop trying to be important.
You really can.
You can put down the weight of those invisible debts to people who aren't living your life.
It offers a profound psychological relief. It reveals that your only actual obligation is to be fully, completely present in the life and the work that is directly in front of you.
Just tunnel the dirt in front of you.
Yes. The grand service to humanity that we all stress over isn't something you have to force through sheer willpower. It is the natural, inevitable byproduct of a life lived authentically.
Which leaves us with one final kind of mind-bending thought to take with you today.
Ooh, I like this one.
Society makes us absolutely obsessed with building a legacy. We desperately want to be remembered. We want our names carved into buildings or history books.
We all want to leave a mark.
But if the text is right, if our greatest contributions to the world actually happen completely naturally as an unintended side effect of simply living our authentic lives, what if the very act of trying to leave a legacy is exactly what guarantees that we won't?
That's a heavy question.
Think about that for a second. What if the things you will truly be remembered for, the ways you will actually change the world for the better, are the things you did when you completely forgot anyone else was watching?
The silent intelligence.
Exactly. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep your attention complete, keep digging your own soil, and we will see you next time.